Alright, well, since everybody's making videos of this nature, I might as well make one of my own as well. This is mainly for the community, just the Poke battling community as a whole, and mainly Xerxes as well. I tried to get in contact with him last night, did not really receive any messages or anything of the sort. So I figured, I'd make this video and, just give you guys my slice on it since, yeah, we didn't really get much of that from his video, that's one of the minor complaints I have about it, but honestly, this isn't really about me complaining about the video. I also want to mention beforehand, to anyone that's probably saying I wouldn't have apologized regardless, I didn't know that he would have taken it this seriously to go as far as to call us, immature, all those other word choices and all that stuff, and yeah, he's right, but it still hurts all the same regardless. And I'm not mad about it. I'm just bringing that point up. And he really didn't say anything about it until now. Like I left the challenge just kind of sitting there, like both because of that reason and just because I kind of had other things on my plate at the same time. So just nothing was really lining up properly. And given that, I didn't really think anything was going to line up properly. But as for what actually went down that night, it was a Friday night stream. It was me and Rick in the Skype call at the time. We invited some other people. Weil was there as well, and then Scott, Shofu, and Black eventually made their way on. Scott said he just finished playing Xerxes, and we were like, "Oh, nice, nice, nice. How'd it go?" And then Scott told us the result. I don't really remember it all that well. I do. And I'm not really going to spoil it, but he mentioned he got hacked or something by a couple of things, and he let slip two of the members, which I do remember. I'm not going to divulge whatever. I'm sure he wouldn't want them, released or anything like that. But he did mention two of them, and yeah, that's kind of out of line. I'm not sure if I deliberately asked for them. I'm under the impression that I did. The whole night in that aspect is kind of a blur, but I do remember that was mentioned, and that's not very cool on my behalf or of anyone in the call at that point. But in my defense, since I was live streaming, I didn't pay it too much mind. I was more busy trying to entertain everybody else, and I don't know. We were just kind of asking just to make idle banter going on and have something, just a topic of the moment to talk about, like I would assume you'd understand how it tends to be in live situations like that. Just have something interesting to talk about. That came up, and we just kind of went off of it, which is, thinking back on it, it's really a dick move, but there's not much that can be done about it now. The other thing I also want to mention is, if anyone's known me longer for a month, I don't make special team accommodations for anything. I actually spend a lot of time bitching about the 5th gen metagame just because you have to change your team around to accommodate to a lot of threats, which is why I like playing lower tier in the first place. I don't like carrying dedicated checks or counters to anything of the sort. I just bring whatever the fuck I want and go with it. That's how it's been for like the past 150 battle videos, barring theme teams or anything of the sort. So honestly, with that knowledge, that's all I would have had with it. And given 5th gen's team preview and everything like that, I know 4th gen has a dynamic where you don't know what they have until they send it out, but with 5th gen, having teams being made public is a little bit less of an issue as well, especially since you see it right in the match. But going back to the original concept of it, having that knowledge, I could bring something dedicated to take out either one of the things, but the thing is I wouldn't do that. So I don't know. It's my word of mouth, and then it's his word of mouth. Naturally, his word of mouth is going to be a lot stronger in this situation, given his reputation. But I still feel like I want to get, my bit out. And plus, there's also, even the fact that even if I were to make a counter team like he made us all out to do, which I don't, I'm going to be honest with you, dude, I don't really appreciate you making that assumption that we all went out and did that. Because, I mean, we can do this thing on the stream where we can talk about it and stuff, and I don't know, like, that's one assumption that I prefer you really not made about me. I mean, feel free to call me immature about, talking about it in the first place, do what you want, but to say I'm actually going to go through with it and follow through with it, we never even played, so I don't feel that you're standing on strong enough ground to make that claim about me when you don't really know me all that well at the same time. But, yeah. Going back to that, even if I did counter team, There wouldn't be any guarantee I would win anyway. I don't consider myself a top tier battler. I just really like narrating. I like editing videos, and I have decent matches, and that's why I put them on YouTube. You know, I do this thing where I'm like over here, and then I do that. But honestly, I don't know. Like, I consider myself like a meh battler at best. And honestly, the team I was gonna bring was Azelf, Gyarados, Hitmonlee, Kangaskhan, Dusclops, and Ninetales beforehand. That's what I was set on. Do you know what I still had in my box in the same order before? Azelf, Gyarados, Hitmonlee, Kangaskhan, Dusclops, and Ninetales. Just saying, you know, the offer, I really highly doubt the offer is still valid, but it seems like me admitting what I was going to use before and after, and it's probably not a very credible statement at this point given the fact that he basically just verbally did all this to us, and, you know, I don't know, I figured I might as well bring that up as well. And it kind of seems silly for me to try to justify it after the fact that he said it, but at the same time, you don't really know. He didn't really go into detail of what happened that night because he doesn't know what happened that night because he heard it from some random fan that I'm assuming went off to his Zat or something of the sort and said, hey, you know, they're talking about doing this and this, you know. It very easily could have been lost in translation, or he could have been there himself. I don't really know how he found out about it, but I will admit to, you know, finding this stuff out, and I really wanted to apologize, you know, just on behalf of everybody that was there that night. As I said, I really didn't pay too much thought to it. I was too busy, you know, just actually taking other battles to even think about it, and honestly, 3 days later, I completely all but forgot I even had that request pending. The other thing I kind of wanted to touch base on is I'm not really a fan of how you went about doing this, how you went about making this video of yours. Like, you bashed us first, which I understand that I'm deserving of, and, you know, everyone else in this cat calls deserving of to some extent for even, you know, being in that conversation, barring Scott, but, you know, he's still at fault for revealing in the first place, but he left afterwards, so he knew he had messed up in some aspect. But by bashing us first and then delivering, like, a really motivating speech after that, I was moved by it. I really was. I really enjoyed it. And who the fuck is... I'm not answering that. Whatever. You made a lot of us seem like we just have no respect for you. And admittedly, it was a disrespectful move, but I did not mean it with those intentions. And you just straight up called us out and said we were essentially haters, and no, that's not it. I still have a great deal of respect towards you, and honestly, I kind of wish you'd confronted us about it before just putting it out in the open, and doing that in the first place. You know, not really mentioning anything until you created that video. And I don't know. I think this is something that very could have easily been worked out under the table, and that's just going to make today a little bit more difficult. You know, dealing with the extra comments and just excess things coming my way and all that, and yeah, that basically stirred the pot in a direction that I think is completely unnecessary. I think it could have been handled. It could have been handled completely different. I probably would have said something along these lines to you as well. But going back to the main point, I had no intentional disrespect for it. If anything, all I did was I talked about it, touched base with it, and then that's it. We just went off and we did something else. And if anything, I don't know if there might have been like 250 of you in the stream at the time, but I didn't really talk much about it. Like, I just let them sit down with their idle chit chat. But the thing is I did kind of feel the fire of that conversation, and I do feel the need to apologize, you know, for even asking or implying that I wanted to know what it was in the first place, and that is, you know, just basically really underhanded tactic. And it's abnormally out of character for me to even do something like that. It was just, as I mentioned before, just for curiosity's sake. Like, I think Scott mentioned that he got hacked a little bit by the match, and naturally, you know, in your mind when you hear that kind of thing, it's like, oh, what did the haxing? You know, that's the one question that's burning back there. And you know, at the time, I wasn't even thinking about the fact that you didn't even want the team revealed, but the question just took precedent. I was like, okay, what hacks do you? And then, you know, Scott let it slip, and then just kind of went downhill from here, escalated into this. And that's why, you know, I'm making an apology right now to you personally, you know, Xerxes. I'm sincerely sorry for everything that's happened. And, yeah, I know that you don't really have the need to forgive me or anything of the sort, or even if that's ever going to happen. But, you know, I still got to get this off my chest. I mean, yeah. Let me think about what else to say here. I think I got nothing. You know, I'm just expressing an immense amount of remorse for it, and I don't know. People do shit, and that's it. You know, we got to bite the bullet on this one. Especially me and everybody else involved. I mean, I know some people might have handled it very negatively, but you know, I'm trying to handle this in as positive of a way as I can, while still, you know, maintaining that I feel bad about what went down, but I still want to put my 2 cents in. So I don't mean any offense deliberately by anything that I've said. These are just, you know, my own personal opinions, my own personal apology, and I pretty much think that should do it. I've always been really awful with conclusions, but yeah, I guess leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this whole thing. If you haven't seen this video, I'll leave a link in the description as to the scenario that has happened. I will be making a battle video shortly after that. For those of you expecting that, that'll probably be up in like 2 or 3 hours, anything like that. And I will see you guys later.